The Israelis knew an all-out assault or bombardment was out of the question, so they took the only option left to them, which was to surround the church and set siege to it. The siege lasted 39 days from April 2nd to May 10th until negotiations between the Vatican, the United States, Israel, the Palestinian Authority, and the European Union finally bore fruit. In the end, 26 of the wanted men were sent to exile to Gaza, and another 13 were deported abroad to Europe. However, this negotiated settlement was only possible after the Israeli forces squeezed the Palestinians long and hard enough. Because every aspect of the siege was conducted under the unblinking gaze of the international media, to include film crews, freelance journalists, and eyewitnesses, the Israelis had to apply pressure both humanely and surgically. To start with, the Israelis made life uncomfortable for those in the church by limiting the amount of food sent in. If the holdouts wanted to eat, they must surrender first. Also, since there were not any bathrooms inside the Holy Church, the holdouts had to sit in the stench of their own urine and excrement unless they wanted to give themselves up. On top of all this, day and night, the surrounding forces played loud noises from speakers elevated over the church by huge yellow cranes, so the occupants could not sleep or think straight. While these measures made life unpleasant, the Israelis ringed the church with snipers so they could put any exposed gunmen out of their misery with a carefully placed shot. This was difficult since the urban terrain, with its inconveniently placed buildings, was such that the surrounding snipers could not always get a good shot at their enemy. To overcome these urban obstacles, the Israelis trucked in a mobile shooting platform, a large rectangular yellow steel and glass container, that was then raised 100 feet up in the air by a big industrial crane. Once the shooters in the container were dangling high above the surrounding terrain, they had a bird's eye view of the church and manger square and could make accurate shots at an enemy leaving the safety of the church. To avoid any potential casualties among their snipers elevated by the crane, the IDF made innovative use of their Trap-2 remote firing weapon system, which they attached to their crane. The end result was the Israelis were able to raise a sniper rifle secured to a Trap-2 remote firing system and secured to the end of a crane high above the church. In this manner, the Israelis could get a good vantage point and then remotely fire on the Palestinian holdouts without fear of Israeli soldiers being harmed with return fire. Over the course of the siege, the Israeli snipers took their toll. On April 4, Samir Ibrahim Salman was seen running across Manger Square and was shot dead by an Israeli sniper. This killing turned out to be a serious blunder, since Samir was not a Muslim extremist terrorist, but the Christian bell ringer for the church. The IDF later said Samir ignored orders to halt and was suspected of being a suicide bomber. In this situation, the Israeli snipers failed to positively identify their target and shot an unarmed innocent man. On April 10th, Israeli snipers blundered again, shooting and wounding Arm Ensinyin, a 22-year-old Christian Armenian monk who was looking out a window while inside the church. The IDF said they mistook the unarmed man for a Palestinian gunman. Another 20-year-old man was shot and wounded after he made the mistake of venturing into a church garden to try and find something to eat. Both men were later taken to a hospital to recuperate from their wounds. Danish peace activist Alan Lindgaard, who managed to maneuver his way inside the church during the siege, correctly observed, "The Israelis are shooting at anything which moves in here. They shoot through the windows and at anyone going out to get food." On April 13th, the killing continued when an Israeli sniper positioned in a nearby building, armed with a suppressed rifle, took aim at Hassan Abdullah al-Nuzman, a 26-year-old blacksmith from Bethlehem who was in the church. The sniper was dead on, striking Hassan twice in the chest. The Palestinians later charged Israel with refusing to let ambulances come and rescue Hassan, who later bled to death from the gunshot wounds. 11 days later, on April 24th, Israeli snipers fired on 2 Palestinian men in the church compound, killing one and wounding the other. On April 26, 2 more Palestinians were shot by snipers and then evacuated by ambulance for further treatment. 5 days passed when, on April 29th, Nidil Ismail Abiyat, one of the Palestinians holed up inside, got sloppy and exposed himself by going into the church courtyard. Nidal took a bullet in the chest from an Israeli sniper positioned in a nearby building. In this case, this was a good kill, since Nidal was a member of the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades of Yasser Arafat's Fatah movement. Several days went by, and on May 2nd, an Israeli sniper shot and killed 21-year-old Ahmed Mohammed Abu Abed a member of the Palestinian Authority's military intelligence who was hiding out inside the church. Ahmed was struck in quick succession by 2 bullets, one hitting him in his chest and one plowing into his stomach. On May 4th, Khalaf Ahmed al-Najjarah also made the mistake of venturing into a church courtyard, as Israeli sniper promptly placed a bullet directly into his chest, killing him. When the siege finally concluded on May 10th, the Israeli soldiers participating in the operation should have taken pause to carefully record the lessons they should have learned. One important lesson was the deliberate use of snipers, even on a large scale, minimized the damage to the urban infrastructure. After all, the Church of the Nativity suffered only superficial wounds, to include a slightly damaged 12th century mosaic and a single bullet wound to the Virgin Mary located in the birth grotto. Another important lesson was just because one is firing a sniper rifle does not mean the operation will be surgical. A soldier with a precision firearm still has to identify their target to make sure they are shooting the enemy. In this operation, poorly disciplined Israeli snipers shot and killed numerous unarmed innocent people. This poor showing undermined Israel's credibility, gave the Palestinians ammunition for their media war, and actually encouraged the innocent civilians in the church to remain inside with the gunmen, lest they be shot by Israeli snipers bent on shooting anything that moved. Israel's targeted killings. As the Nativity Church siege showed, killing a specific target by a sniper can be a better alternative than many other options. A sniper is discriminating and could place a bullet into a specific target without causing collateral damage. With the surgical placement of a single bullet, there was no spectacular destruction and no gruesome collateral damage. There was nothing eye-catching for the media, maybe a blood-stained shirt or a hole in a person's head. Just as the Palestinian resistance groups judged their own sniper attacks would not garner too much international outrage, the Israeli military knew their sniper operations did not register high on the international community's radar. For all these reasons, the sniper rifle was perfect for the elimination of a specific target, or in other words, for assassinations. Abd el-Rahman Hamad, a senior member of Hamas' Azzedine al-Qassam brigade, must have known Israel would make the effort to kill him if they had the chance. Not only was Hamad arrested and imprisoned numerous times for terrorist-related activities, he was involved in the planning of the June 1, 2001 discotheque attack, where a suicide bomber blew themselves up while waiting in line to get inside a nightclub. The resulting blast killed 22 young men and women and wounded another 120. A man who helped such slaughter should have been a very careful man, especially a man living in the West Bank. Hamad got sloppy. At 7 a.m. on the morning of October 14, 2001, Hamad made a journey out onto the roof of his house, which was located in the town of Kaliklia. Hamad did not know it at the time, but a team of Israeli snipers had his house under surveillance and were waiting for him to expose himself. As Hamad stepped out onto his roof, he signed his death warrant. Immediately, 2 bullets ripped into his chest, killing him. The assassination of Hamad, as with all significant killings, resulted in political fallout. The Israeli government felt justified in killing Hamad since they labeled him a mass murderer. A government spokesman clarified their view on the assassination, saying, "We're going to take all the necessary steps to secure our citizens because we don't have any other choice. If we don't do that, we will face terrible terror attacks inside of our cities, in our streets." The Israeli people may have agreed with this statement, but the United States was unhappy with the killing since it undermined the ongoing efforts to negotiate a settlement with the Palestinian Authority. As could be expected, after learning of the killing of Hamad, Hamas vowed to take revenge. The information minister for the Palestinian Authority used the assassination as an opportunity to lash out at Israel. The assassination today is a clear indicator that all the Israeli claims that they want to achieve peace and uphold the ceasefire are just lies. The most serious problem was if Hamas did retaliate against the shooting, it could derail Israel's plans to withdraw that same day from Arab areas in the town Hebron. Ironically, the Israeli army occupied these neighborhoods just 2 weeks before to silence Palestinian snipers who targeted adjacent Jewish settlements. A polarized society. In many ways, Israel's society is polarized. One either supports the Palestinian insurgency or the government of Israel. Without doubt, elements on both sides of the ethnic, ideological, and religious trenches have found this polarization useful. Radical Palestinian elements insisting on the destruction of Israel cannot tolerate Palestinians sitting in the political middle ground. An Arab who accepts a two-state solution must be blasted out of the middle ground with suicide bombings, and Israel's own heavy-handed reactions. In turn, Jewish radicals who insist on annexing and populating the Gaza Strip and the West Bank are equally fearful of moderate Jews who appreciate the Palestinian point of view. These moderates, too, must be removed so God's people can occupy Hebron and East Jerusalem. For both sides, the most effective way to influence the population and create polarization is to wage a media war through TV shows, newspapers, articles in journals and magazines, books, and in cyberspace with websites and blogs. On any given event, like a sniper shooting, both sides spin the story to suit their political agendas. When a foreign journalist writes an article about a shooting and tries to maintain their impartiality, whatever side feels slighted by what is written, they viciously attack the author as being either a fascist, neo-Nazi, Jew-hater, or a Zionist, American bootlicking infidel. The spin doctors on both sides created such a polarized environment, with the help of their respective media machines, that finding the truth was next to impossible. It was up for grabs, depending on if you were an Arab or a Jew, a Palestinian or an Israeli, the insurgent or the occupier. This was exactly how the extremists on both sides wanted it. In the meantime, the sniper war in Israel continues, with Palestinian snipers stalking new prey and Israel snipers responding in kind, creating new tragedies, new media sensations, and new reasons for revenge.